Kenny Omega is your new AEW champion, and Sting, after 18 years, makes his return to TNT. This is Wrestling on WebChannel24.com talking about AEW Dynamite. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. I am Rantin, a 30-year plus fan of pro wrestling, meaning I've been watching wrestling way too long, but I do it and enjoy it. And I'm here to talk about some of the cool things in and out of the ring in the wrestling world. But of course, before we get to any of the interesting stuff that happened this past Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite, this is YouTube, mostly. And you, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching this, hit that like button down below. Dropkick it, power bomb it. Give it the Rainmaker. Give that YouTube algorithm thing, that stuff that it needs. And then the videos can go up and more people can rediscover my channel from all the people who used to watch me back in the day. But we're going to talk about something else right now. We're going to talk about probably the best AEW. In fact, it is the best edition of AEW Dynamite in its short history. Now, the show was full of a lot of stuff. We've got some better acting in the women's division, some better matches in the women's division. Abigail, Sister Abigail, whatever. I shouldn't say that, but going after Shida, whose English is improved and actually is probably better than mine. And her acting is improved a little bit more. So the women's division, they're still trying to figure out what they're doing with it. But the rest of the show, really cool stuff. We've got a lot of conflict with the Inner Circle. That took up the first 45 minutes of the show. Jericho took on Frankie Kazarian. Meanwhile, a lot of other members of the Inner Circle, MJF and Wardlow and Sammy Guevara, were in the opening battle royal, as we are now in that season to the crowning another Dynamite ring winner. MJF being the current Dynamite ring holder. And the last two guys in the Battle Royal who survived would go on next week to face each other for that ring. Now, MJF, of course, wanting to repeat. He and Guevara and Wardlow all sat in a corner for a good portion of the match and let everybody eliminate themselves. Lots of little minor storylines going on here. The coolest thing was seeing Miro just wipe out people and then him go face to face and take on the Inner Circle, which it made me realize, hey, Wardlow is actually, in my opinion now, I'm looking at him as a much bigger star than he was a year ago. So what they've done with him has worked. And two, the Inner Circle as a thing against Miro as a thing is something I didn't know I wanted to see until I saw it. I was like, they should do more with that, because I like that whole dynamic there. But Miro eventually got eliminated. Lots of other chicanery going on, but in the end, one piece of chicanery that'd be important is Sammy Guevara wound up getting eliminated, along with Jungle Boy by MJF, who accidentally did it. Right. Then they got in each other's face, but at the end of the day, winds up being MJF and Orange Cassidy going on to face each other next week in the match to decide who's going to have the Dynamite Diamond Ring this year. That led on to Frankie Kazarian's match with Chris Jericho, the leader of the Inner Circle, later on. There was still more infighting. Jericho's like, I've had enough of this shit. Even though he won the match with Kazarian, Jericho gave the ultimatum to all the other knuckleheads in the Inner Circle. Was like, look, you guys either get this together next week and we're going to be together and knock off this nonsense, or the Inner Circle's broken up forever. That was the end of that. Now, there could be some interesting plays on that, but I'm not going to speculate right now. I want to wait to see how social media develops to see if there's any hints, but there could be an interesting swerve coming on this because of what Jericho said this week. But I like the whole, everything except for the show tunes thing, which I wasn't a big fan of, but everything else about this Inner Circle MJF Wardlow storyline is sports entertainment that I like. And I really have enjoyed the storyline that they've told with this whole thing with these guys. And, again, right down to the detail of Wardlow and Jake Hager perpetually giving each other the stink eye. I mean, it's really, really good stuff that they're doing. And I enjoy all of it. Then we get to this tag team match that happens in the middle of the night. Cody teaming up with Darby Allin, the current TNT champion, taking on the newest member of Team Taz in Powerhouse, Will Hobbs, and his tag team partner Ricky Starks. And I think this is probably one of my favorite matches of the night. The tag match itself, even though it gets overshadowed by what happened later on, the tag match is actually really good. It ends up with Ricky taking the pin from Darby after a coffin drop, and then all hell breaks loose. You got members of Team Taz running in. You got Dustin Rhodes running in. You got Arn Anderson actually getting involved physically, which probably shouldn't be doing at his age because of what happened with his left arm. But we actually have a surprise. I'm like, all right, who's going to come out and save him? And I had completely forgotten about this rumor until it happened, and then we see like snow and ice and mountains and evergreen trees, and either Bob Ross was about to come back from the grave to paint some mountains and happy little trees, or winter is coming, which means the return after 18 years to TNT, Turner Network Systems, Turner Television, wrestling in the wrestling ring, not wrestling, in the wrestling ring. I'm botching this whole intro. But yes, the Stinger, Sting, has come back to TNT on air for the first time since him and Flair had that last match on Monday Nitro back in 2001. And Sting comes in, doesn't have to do anything. Team Taz hits the high ground. Sting comes in the ring, has a face-to-face with Arn Anderson, bringing back memories right there for me. I immediately remember back when the Horsemen kicked Sting out in 1990. Ole and Arn Anderson and Ric Flair kicked them out of the Horsemen, and how at the time as a preteen I felt like that was probably, I was kind of worried for Sting at the time because it felt that intense the way they performed that whole thing. But those long-term enemies, and then Sting goes over to Cody, and then he goes over to Dustin, the Sons of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Of course, a little trivia for you, almost to the day, we're a couple weeks away, Starrcade 1988, Dusty Rhodes and Sting teamed up to take on a recently turned heel Road Warriors, another group of people with paint on their face, for the World Tag Team Championships, which, again, a little bit of history there for you guys. But it was the confrontation with someone else who paints their face, Darby Allin, who's been compared to Sting for quite some time, ever since he, I guess, Fyter Fest, when he went on the national stage last year. A lot of people have compared it. AEW's been aware of this. That's why they booked Cody and Darby Allin very similar to the way Flair and Sting were booked back in the day. And I absolutely enjoyed the stare down. And just seeing them stare at each other was way more iconic than I thought it was. Again, second character on the show. Darby Allin now, to me, is a mega star. Like, it's not like, oh, he's AEW. No, Darby Allin is one of the biggest stars in wrestling, period, right now. And him going face-to-face with Sting was absolutely fantastic, so I loved all of that. And after all of that, the shenanigans and chicanery, Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley will meet for the AEW Championship. Don Callus was on commentary, which was not unusual because Don Callus had been on commentary for quite some time. They had established that kind of right in front of your face. That's the best kind of surprise. It's one that they put right in front of your face, and most people did not think anything of it. But Don Callus, the reason that Don Callus has been there, and they explained it very well, back when Kenny Omega was making a big name for himself over in Japan, Don Callus called a lot of those matches. In fact, I think he called 3 out of the 4 Kazuchika Okada Kenny Omega matches. So Don Callis has been there for the whole thing. Don Callis brokered the deal with bringing Jericho to New Japan to face Omega at Wrestle Kingdom a few years ago. So they go back a long way. It was not unusual to see him there. Plus, Don Callis just happens to be EVP of Impact Wrestling. All of the little pieces fell together for this one moment in which Kenny Omega, after having a pretty decent match, it's not as good as the match they had last year at Full Gear, but a pretty damn good match with Jon Moxley. Omega got his eye busted open, or well, not busted, he got a bruise on his eye, a black eye. Moxley got busted open from a microphone shot, but how that happened is because Don Callis, showing his concern for Omega, who took what seemed to be a bad bump outside the ring, wanted the match to stop, brought up a microphone, and I was kind of like, why is he bringing a microphone up there? What is the point of the microphone? Moxley knocks down Callus, and the microphone somehow winds up in the hands of Kenny Omega, who uses it as a weapon. About 5 V-triggers later, and a one-wing angel, and your new and third AEW champion is Kenny Omega, who immediately, with Don Callis, run out of the ring, like, to quote JR, like scolded dogs, Tony Khan's yelling at them, Jerry Lynn's yelling at them, all the extras in the back are yelling at them. Marvez is chasing him out to the SUV, and then he says, "What's going on? What are you doing?" And Don Callis goes, "Everything will be revealed on Tuesday." And Marvez says, "Tuesday? That's AEW Dark." Oh, actually, he didn't say that. But no, he said, "No, Dynamite's on Wednesdays." He's like, Don Callis is like, "No. It's going to be on Impact. The AEW champion, Kenny Omega, that's right, is going to be on Impact. We have an interpromotional... We have a high-profile interpromotional skit on AEW and Impact." And this is why some people may think that, what's the big deal? Because the cynical minds will say that. But this actually is a big deal because you have to look at the wrestling industry as to where it is at that time. And during the Monday Night Wars, there was never, even though ECW had some crossovers with WWE, I think that was really the last time you ever saw something like this, and that really didn't go too far. The original ECW invasion of the WWF back in '96 basically was kind of relegated to Jerry Lawler by himself, making fun of all the ECW people because, as we all found out later on, Vince was kind of bankrolling ECW under the table. Things went a little crazy on the other side of that with the invasion angle, which was to work and not shoot as this is. So this is an actual working arrangement between the number 2 and number 3 wrestling companies in the United States, which, given the history of it, here's why it's different. Impact has a very, very long history. They've been around for a very, very long time, way back to the TNA days back in 2004. Or 2002, 2000, I forgot what it was, 2002, 2003, 2004, whenever Impact started. And AEW was born out of the indies, born out of the international scene, born out of New Japan, born out of YouTube. It's this thing that came, this new incarnation of WCW, what WCW probably would have been today if it had existed today. It's now filled that spot. So now you've got 2 companies that tried, in some ways, have tried to fill the spot of WCW coming together. And for those of you who watch my channel, this is something I've been very excited about. I really had hoped for the longest time that wrestling companies, AEW said they would work with people, they actually would, and you get them working with Impact, you get them working with Ring of Honor. Still waiting for that New Japan relationship, though. Although there was mention on the show, Kazuchika Okada was mentioned like 2 or 3 times on the show. But this is exciting. It's got a lot of the wrestling world talking. It's the kind of buzz that AEW needs. It depends greatly on over the next month how they handle it. If they drop the ball on this interpromotional thing, it's going to be looked at as these guys are not legit. If they come up with something fantastic for it, then that's a whole different story and might be a game changer. Because, to quote the guy at the tennis racket, even though I don't really particularly care for him anymore, but he did say something very smart back in the day. He said a lot of smart things. And one of the smart things he said back in the day is when New Japan and Ring of Honor got the Madison Square Garden show, the guy at the tennis racket had said, they can't beat Vince. None of them can beat Vince. And even together, they can't really beat Vince, but they can get together and tell Vince to stay on his side of the street. And I think that is a very good quote. It's a very good observation, of course. And I think that's entirely true. And what we may start seeing now, it'd be interesting if this decade is that happening, is the Impacts and the Ring of Honors and the MLWs and the AEWs and the CMLLs and the AAAs and the New Japans and so on and so forth, if they all kind of come together and have their own coalition and they can keep Vince on his side of the street, these guys can make money. Vince can make Vince, Triple H, and the McMahons make their money, and the UK, because basically the McMahons own the UK scene now. And maybe that's the future of wrestling. Maybe that's what wrestling's going to be like in the 2020s. Maybe that's going to be the story of this decade, is the emergence of the 2 sides of wrestling. And again, to call upon my video I made earlier, the pro wrestling side and the sports entertainment side are going to carve out their little niche, and we'll see what happens. It could be very, very interesting, the aftermath of this, or it could just be a total dud. Those are my opinions on AEW Dynamite. Another really good show this week. It just answered the question I had a couple weeks ago, is that was this another hot streak, and was it going to fizzle out after 2 weeks? Well, they turned the heat up to like 1,000. Sting's debut, the Inner Circle stuff is great, and this new wrinkle in the Kenny Omega storyline in the World Championship, plus a bunch of other stuff on the show. These other mini feuds that they have are pretty good. So I want to know what you think about it, though. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary here on Wrestling Rantin. I do want to let you know, too, that there is a contest going on for a free wrestling ebook. It will either be the Eggshells History of the Tokyo Dome shows from Chris Charlton ebook, or the Young Bucks new ebook. It's an Amazon promo, so I'll let you guys know which one of those prizes. It'll probably be both. Will be coming up. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to this channel and make sure you write a comment in the comment box below. I'll see you guys soon for more news, rumors, and commentary right here on Wrestling for WebChannel24.com. Have a good day.